Every time I mention Jezebel, it brings up some preconceived notions in people's head about who she was as a person, but I don't think they're truly looking at the chain of events, how they unfolded, and how it relates to the context of history. Why don't we go through, and I'm going to point out some things to you that just don't make sense about this story. We are first introduced to Jezebel in 1 Kings 16:29 as the daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Sidonians, and then Ahab begins to serve Baal. But we know that there were many kings in Canaan who worshipped many gods, so it's demonstrably false to make it as such that Jezebel is the cause as to why people are practicing idolatry. Out of nowhere in 1 Kings 18:4, Jezebel is accused of killing off the prophets of Yahweh, but in the very same sentence, they say that 100 prophets of Yahweh are hidden in caves to be protected. Elijah speaks with Ahab and challenges the prophets of Baal to a duel of sorts. Elijah claims he is the only prophet of Yahweh remaining, when in verse 4 we read, there's at least 100. Whatever. At this demonstration, there are many onlookers along with the prophets and Elijah. As a side note, I thought I should remind you that we're not supposed to test the Holy Spirit or challenge God as stated in Deuteronomy 6 verses 16. And this is the reason that Moses ends up being put to death and not being able to reach the promised land. In Exodus, he challenges God and isn't sure if God is able to bring water to the Israelites who are in the desert. So, friendly reminder, what happened here at Mount Carmel is actually a sin. The prophets of Baal are unable to light their fire, but when Elijah is able to light his, he commands the onlookers to begin murdering the 450 prophets of Baal. Does that not sound off to you, like something more diabolical is happening behind the scenes? How is one man able to control hundreds of people, I'm assuming must be standing around, that are able to take down 450 prophets? It's just not making sense. Ahab stands by and lets this murder happen and then runs home to complain about it to Jezebel. Of course, Jezebel, rightfully so, is hated and sends a message to threaten Elijah. Elijah, being melodramatic as ever, flees, but Yahweh appears to him and gives him some information. Yahweh is like, hey, buddy, you're not alone. You got 7,000 men behind you. Not only that, you got 2 kings in the bag, Hazael and Jehu. And I even got a prophet, Elisha, to succeed you. So throughout all this, Elijah saying, oh, poor me, I'm all by myself, poor me. Yet he has the ability to command people to murder 450 prophets. And he's got 7,000 fighting men behind him and 2 kings at his behest. Like, please, give me a break. Something is not sitting right here in this narrative. We learn that these 7,000 men are able to kill 100,000 Aramean foot soldiers in one day. The numbers are not adding up. Somebody is lying about the amount of power and control that they have. Jezebel is accused of putting one man to death for his land, so apparently she has enough power and influence that she can control men to make them go commit a stoning, yet she needs her husband's seal to sign a document. Whatever. I think it's just a pejorative, if you ask me. I think that Jezebel is being used as a plot device. She is propaganda about the horrors of these polytheistic women. Jehu, one of the kings chosen by God, responsible for the demise of Jezebel's family, we learn worships idols. What needs to be taken into consideration is that Kings, in its final form, comes after the exile, having gone through several stages of editing and redaction. These stories were written centuries after these people lived, and they needed someone to blame for their polytheism, for their history. So they created scapegoats. Jezebel, being a prominent figure, may have been so influential that they needed to create this polemic to finally seal her fate. If we take the Yahweh's objective into consideration, their intention is to kill anybody in their way, anyone who gets in the way of their control, and then they portray them to be the bad guy by writing a nasty story about them. It's gaslighting 101. It's propaganda. This is not an accurate portrayal of history, and we have no idea if any of it is true. Jezebel behaved no differently than those men, Jehu, Elisha, and Elisha. The only difference is that she was a woman, she was influential, and she was polytheistic. Yet she is the one who gets demonized. How misogynistic.